Welcome back to the Casting Cost cEDH podcast. I'm Blake.
I'm Chase, and today we're going to be talking about cards from Edge of Eternities. So this upcoming weekend is the pre-release, I believe, for Edge of Eternities.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of been looking through some of these cards. I actually really like this set. I actually think that this is a cool set. Now, whether or not there's a lot for us as far as cEDH goes, that is to be determined. But I kind of feel like this is going to be like the best like in-universe set that we've gotten this year.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on it?
Man, I'm not gonna lie to you. I am like a lot of people are very big into like the lore of Magic and they're into everything. Like when sets
Happens
come out
every time.
Well, when sets come out, everybody starts looking at all the cards. They look at them and they start going through everything. I literally don't look at a single damn card until like the whole set is spoiled. Like obviously people will like show me stuff and they'll be like, "What do you think of this?" And I'll be like, "Oh yeah." But then once everything is like done, then I will go through and I'll like kind of look at stuff. But the problem is that like in my brain, I start looking at stuff and then I totally forget like where I saw it at or where it came from, and then like you know what I mean. So then I just like I end up confusing myself, and I know that that sounds very stupid, but I am not intelligent. So.
Shut up.
So I just use that as like an opportunity to like once the set is fully spoiled, I want to know because like I may already develop an opinion on a card too. I may look at it and go, I don't think that gets there, and then all of a sudden another card comes out that like may synergize with it, and you're like, whoa, okay, that's actually pretty good. Yeah. So a lot of times I'm not gonna lie to you, like the spoilers will come into like Discord or like I'll see stuff on like online. I just ignore it until everything's done, and then after that I will just like go through, binge the set, look at everything, pick a couple things, and I'm like, okay. And then I just wipe the rest of it from memory.
Fair enough. Well, I guess a couple of points to kind of bridge off of that. One, at least at this point in time, I believe that everything has been spoiled. So I think that we're good to go on that. And then you just mentioned Discord. You might ignore some of the spoilers that are coming through that, but we will not ignore the people that are coming into the Discord. So if you're not part of our Discord, join that. The link will be below. And, you know, since I try to do a little bit of the research on things and pick out some cards beforehand. But we are both very good at just kind of winging it as we go. If you have any cards that you're looking forward to out of this set for cEDH specifically, let us know in the comments down below, and like and subscribe while you're at it. So yeah, I think that this is going to be a really cool set. I think the set offers a lot of really cool things for the other formats as well. But today we are going to be looking at cEDH specifically, and I think there's some exciting things for us in this. I don't know how much, but I guess we'll kind of dive into it and we'll go from there. So are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to start with all of the white cards. All right, so the first card that I kind of want to talk about is this Pinnacle Star Cage. So it's a 3-drop artifact. So for 1 colorless and 2 white pips, when this artifact enters, exile all artifacts and creatures with mana value 2 or less until this artifact leaves the battlefield. Then you can pay 8, so you could do 6 colorless and 2 white pips. Put each card exiled with this artifact into its owner's graveyard. Then create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token for each card put into the graveyard this way. Sacrifice this creature. That's pretty for a 3-drop. That's pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, I was telling you earlier, like I think it's called Temporary Lockdown. It's a enchantment that has like the same text. It exiles like all non-land permanents. But I mean, honestly, I used to run that card at one point in time. So like I could definitely see this card seeing some play, not to mention like it being just artifacts and creatures. Like if you are playing a deck that doesn't really rely on like dorks, and I mean I don't know, like it has the potential to obviously like potentially hurt you a little bit, but if you can swing it way more in your favor to like shut out a lot of dorks and a lot of rocks and things on somebody else's board, I think that is like extremely relevant.
Yeah, that and plus the fact that you can actually like do the activated ability at instant speed if you had to. Like if say you're late game and that's all you can really do to kind of protect the board or whatever. But like where I find this like really relevant, like in the decks that are doing well in the meta currently, like this like can potentially like kill Kennen if they don't have any removal for this, like a Force of Vigor or Nature's Claim or anything like that. Like that gets rid of all the dorks, that gets rid of all the rocks in Kennen for the most part, except for Basalt Monolith. But if they resolve that at this point in time, then they're probably already winning the game. You know, even like TNT to some extent, like with the ramp, you could say the same thing for Sisay. I mean, all of these decks are playing artifact ramp, you know, for the most part. Where in a format where everyone is trying to find a way to speed up, and if that means that just dumping out a bunch of rocks or trying to dump a bunch of dorks down, like this kind of heavily shuts it down. And I think that that's pretty cool. I think the card that it kind of reminds me of in a way is actually Culling Ritual. Like if you think about it, like the fact that it targets things that are CMC 2 or less, and then there is some kind of upside or payoff to it. You might not get that immediate burst, but like you just, if you're able to protect it, or like say going into your turn, like, oh, I'm planning on casting Timna next turn. I have all this extra mana. I'm going to pop this. And now I have all these robots, and going into my turn, I'm going to cast Timna and at least get through and get some damage through and be able to get draws off of that. So I don't know. I think it could be interesting, to say the least. You know, it's a Staxy piece, which is kind of proven to not be in the best position in the format right now. But this is kind of a cool, especially if you're like, you know, I think you were talking about Tameshi a little bit before we started like really recording. I don't know if this would be a card that would want to use that, but having like almost this like blue white artifact heavy deck potentially, to kind of counter some of the other things that are going faster in the format right now. I don't know. I think it has some potential, especially being a 3-drop and having a later game upside to it. So
yeah, the one thing that I do find interesting is it does say all artifacts and creatures with mana value 2 or less, so it doesn't specify like non-land, which I thought was kind of interesting. So I don't know if that would be relevant at any point, but I do think that that's very fascinating.
Well, I feel like it'd be relevant again. Like I mentioned Kennen, but I mean, and some of the other decks, but even against Rogthras right now, if they're running like the Dryad Arbors, or like, especially since people are really hyped on like Shadow at the moment, like being able to exile the artifact lands, the red and the black one, and even the Darksteel Citadel one. Like I think that could have some relevancy. I guess we'll just kind of have to see how it plays out, or if it starts seeing play. But I could see this if it's not like I don't think it's an auto include in decks that run white or artifact heavy in white, but I do see this as a card of like, if people are like really trying to tech against the meta or go into a tournament preparing for certain decks, I could see this coming up.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree with that.
Another card that I had within white is actually the one right next to it from this view, the Lightstall Inquisitor. So for 1 white, you have an Angel Wizard that's a 2/1 with Vigilance. When this creature enters, each opponent exiles a card from their hand and may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Each spell cast this way costs 1 more to cast. Each land played this way enters tapped. So, like for 1 white, a very asymmetrical disruption piece that either taxes your opponents or slows down their game plan if they choose to put a land in there. If you have Draenith on board, and like you're able to kind of continue to bounce this thing, like on a deck that would run like maybe even something like Tivit, where you can run something like Displacer Kitten and continuing to like flicker this thing if you had to. Just remove everything from their hand. If you have Draenith out, they're not able to cast any of that stuff because it's all in exile. I don't know. I think that this could be a very interesting card. Yeah, it's a 2/1, so it dies to Bowmaster pretty quickly. But for a 1-drop, this thing comes down like, if you're seat 1, like turn 1, seat 1, and this thing comes down, and say your opponents have already had to mulligan kind of aggressively, and you're already removing a card from their hand and putting them a turn or 2 behind, like that seems pretty good to me. So,
do you think that could be a Winota card?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're like, it is kind of a Staxy piece, but it's not like I'm going to slow the game plan for myself down. Like that's where
Yeah.
I'm saying it like has like asymmetrical play patterns. I'm sure there are probably better things in one Oda that you want to try to play on one. As far as I think there's some one drop like really hasty creatures that you would want, but I don't think it's a bad call.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could probably be pretty good. So those were kind of the two that I saw right off the bat, but I'm sure there's some others. Did you see anything else in white that?
I think that me and you had actually talked about this card, but the Hard Light Containment, I'm talking about.
Read it off for us.
It's 1 white mana, enchantment aura, enchant artifact you control. When this aura enters, exile target creature and opponent controls until this aura leaves the battlefield. And then the enchanted permanent has ward 1.
Okay. Yeah, so it makes it to where you can exile something for 1, and you are able to kind of protect your own stuff in a way by giving your own artifact the ward ability. Yeah, I think we did kind of talk about that at one point. How do you feel like you would use a card like this?
I personally don't know what deck that like I would add this to. I'm not gonna lie. I think it could literally go in anything.
I know exactly what deck you put this in.
What?
Sythis.
Oh yeah, dude.
Duh.
What am I talking about? Well, would I? Because like the version I'm on is not very high on artifacts anyways. I'm really not running that many artifacts in that list just because there are so many like hate pieces for artifacts. Like you run the Mox Diamond, you run like Chrome Mox. Typically you'll run maybe so you will run a Lotus Petal just because it's gonna like go away anyways. Some people run like the Mox Amber just because this can come down early, but like most of the other time you're not running any of the other artifacts. Like I don't think the list I'm on has like Mana Vault, Soul Ring, any of that stuff. Just because like you're running a lot of like the Stony Silence, the Titania Song type of effects. But I definitely think that it could go in quite a bit of stuff. Honestly, that's not a bad card at all. Just like a little like drop it, remove something, like being able to exile something like a Bowmaster.
Yeah.
And then later, if at any point you hit like a Cloudstone Curio, just saying, hey, like, not really too worried about this Bowmaster right now. There's this other thing that's like causing me some problems. Like you hit one of your enchantments, bounce this thing back to hand, let it come back into play.
Wait, hold on. You're running Cloudstone?
You do run Cloudstone.
So that's the piece that you protect with.
Oh, there we go.
So
good point. See, and then there we go. We got there. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the card's good. So
we put the brain cells together and we figured it out.
Look, man, the thing about this game is that there are just so many cards that like I feel like the more entrenched in the game I get, the harder it gets to like actually do stuff. I'm so glad that you enjoy deck building because every time I look at the tall task of like trying to put a list together, I just immediately go, nah.
And that is why I am tasked with it.
Yeah. Did you like what the comment I made the other day?
About what?
Chase Pardue form.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Hell yeah. But yeah. So I do think that this card's good. And honestly, I might test it and set this. That makes a lot of sense. Being able to protect the Cloudstone, that actually makes more sense.
And there was another one you kind of pointed out right before we started recording. Do you want to go over that one or do you want me to read it off?
Yeah. The other card that I was thinking of was the Scout for Survivors. So it's 2 and a white, sorcery, and it says return up to 3 target creature cards with total mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of them. I think that this is pretty sick, honestly. Like just a nice little reanimate spell for white. Honestly, I'm trying to. Like, I know that there's got to be like some combo where somebody's going to be playing some like Azorius deck, and then they're going to like Buried Alive, put 3 things in, and then try to like drop this.
Here's what I think. Okay, you start kind of milling yourself out and getting a bunch of things back. You cast this, and then you get 3 creatures back from the yard, all with +1/+1 counters, and then you just run it and tie them so they all come in with the vigilance counters too, and then you put 2 activations and tie them right on the stack.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's really good.
So this seems like a tie-up card.
Yeah.
And plus, I mean,
that actually would be that does make sense. That would be a time card because Devoted Druid is 2 mana, and then
Devoted. I mean, you could do Devoted. You could do Bowmaster, like cards you want to look for specifically, like the Fabro Elder.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen one of our recent gameplays, go check that out with the Yam.
For them, it would just be like you could just put Devoted and like the Hex Drinker into play.
Oh yeah.
And then all you have to do is just time activation, put the Swift reconfiguration onto the Devoted Druid, and start making the infinite mana, and then level up the Hex Drinker. And then so that's actually not bad either. But I think that this is definitely going to be really, really good and like some interesting lists. But whenever I saw that, I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, like a reanimate spell for mono white. And honestly,
it being in white is really interesting. Like this is something you would typically see within black.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool. Did you see anything else within white?
Have you seen this Starfield Shepherd? Have you heard about it?
No, I have not seen that one.
So it's not great as far as like the actual cost of it. So it's 3 white. It's a creature angel, and it has flying. It says, when this creature enters, search your library for a basic plains card or a creature card with mana value 1 or less, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. The thing that I think that makes it relevant is it does have a warp cost.
Oh, that's a new mechanic for the set. You want to go ahead and read what the warp is?
So it's 1 and a white, and it says you may cast this card from your hand for its warp cost, exile this creature at the beginning of the next end step. Then you may cast it from exile on a later turn. So basically for 1 and a white, you can put this thing down. It's going to exile itself at the end of the turn, but you can go either search for a basic if you're in some sort of deck that's like wanting to do the weird shenanigans. Like if you're on like the Dogthras list and you're running like some sort of Earthcrafty type engine there or whatever you need to do, like this comes in, you can technically tap it down to untap the planes that you do bring in to do the Earthcraft stuff. Or you can literally just go grab an Esper Sentinel. You can go grab other like relevant 1-drops. Like for me, it's kind of nice because I could go grab like my Children of Corliss for like the Necropotent stuff. You can go find a Ragavan with it. You can go find all sorts of of relevant things with it. So I do think it's interesting.
Yeah, you were mentioning that, and like kind of for you children, you mentioned Esper Sentinel, Mockingbird, and can grab. You mentioned Ragavan just then. I think depending on the deck, I don't know if they'd want. Maybe this would be like a more proactive version of this deck, but like you could almost run this in Blood Pod, and like if you're running like the Samwise Cauldron Familiar stuff, you can get Cauldron Familiar off of this for 2. So
this also goes and grabs the Walking Ballista.
That is true because it says 1 or less. Yep. So
honestly,
good.
like this will definitely. I don't know if people are still playing that deck, but if people are playing like the mono white Heliod stuff like that, they'll probably go and it'll be a good tutor for the Ballista if you need that. But I think it's relevant. I mean, there's some 1 or less mana, like there's one or less mana creatures that you're going to want to find that are in your deck. So I definitely think that it's not completely irrelevant. Honestly, I think it'll be fun. Isn't like what is like Magus of the Candelabra or stuff?
Magus of the Candelabra is a 1-drop.
Yeah,
so I mean that would be in the Dogthras list, right?
Yeah.
So cool. Let's move on. Let's go to the blue cards that are within this new set. So the first one that I kind of had on my list was this Moonlit Meditation. It's a 3-drop enchant artifact or creature you control. And it says the first time you would create 1 or more tokens each turn, you may instead create that many tokens that are a copy of enchanted permanent. So like being able to, if you needed to copy, like, I don't know what, like say, like because it is a 3-drop, let's kind of use Zur as an example. Like what would you utilize this for if you were to run it in Zur? Like what would be artifacts or creatures that would be relevant enough? Like I know Esper Sentinel probably would. Maybe a Bowmaster.
1 or more. You could just make multiple like Children of Corlysses, which would be insane. I could get my whole deck in my hand with Necropotence. That would just be cracked. So for me specifically, that's kind of cool. In reality, I think this is probably something that goes in like Orvar, right?
Well, and I was about to say, like with either the Dogthras and the Charismatic Conqueror, or Rogthras with the Springheart Nantuko.
Good point.
Where like say if you just enchanted the Candelabra, and then now you you play it like Springheart specifically, like you play a land, Springheart triggers. This triggers, makes a copy of the Candelabra instead of the insect or whatever the Springheart was bestowed upon. That's not too bad. And plus, in those decks, those decks are making so much mana anyway. 3 CMC is like nothing to them. It might as well just be 1 blue at that point.
I definitely think that this goes in like Krark decks, like things that are trying to get those, like the Storm Kiln type payoffs and stuff like that. I definitely think that that would be really correct.
Almost make more copies of Storm Kiln. So I'm going to move on from it. My next one that I have is this. I'm going to butcher the name, but I usually do that when I read names off anyway. It's Emanon, the Right Hand. This is a 5-drop, 3/4 legendary creature jellyfish advisor. So it's 3 colorless and 2 blue pips. And it has flying and static abilities of you may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast artifact spells from the top of your library, and artifacts you control have tap, add a blue. Spend this mana only to cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand.
We had Benny, I think, actually built this deck, and he said that it was fine. It just felt like it was always like a turn or two like slow. I think that that's what this deck is probably going to run into, but I definitely think it's cool to be able to do more of the look at your top of your library type shenanigans. Like it has that Glarb type of text.
Yeah.
And then being able to cast artifact spells from the top of your library. So you're basically just Sensei's Top and an infinite mana outlet away from just like, hey, let me draw my whole deck, cast everything. So, I mean, that's not terrible, honestly. With all the ways, too, that we've been finding to like make infinite mana now, there's just so many options that people have. So, I mean, honestly, this still could be relevant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think if anything, this is kind of like, I kind of view this as more of like a much more artifact-centric like Urza shell. Where, I mean, you definitely wouldn't want to play like a polymorph build on this, but the fact that instead of it being like necessarily a random card, you kind of have a little bit more control over what you're trying to do with it as compared to what Urza is doing. Plus, you can run Urza in the 99 of this and do just fine with it. There is a lot of combo potential. This is one I've kind of been looking into just today, honestly, for the channel. So like you can do lines where it's the top and then Reality Chip or Mystic Forge and anything that reduces the cost of mana. You could do Displacer Kitten in it to flicker some of your artifacts as you cast the top in order to have the mana to be able to put the top back on top and then be able to draw into it. And so like there's a lot of possibilities with this. It's just you are restricted to mono blue, and sometimes trying to get to 5 in mono blue, like even though you're jamming a bunch of artifacts into it, like double blue pips can hurt. It does with Urza, but it being 1 less colorless kind of helps Urza compared to what this can do. But I think you play it in the same shell. I think you do like the Winter Orb type stuff and Trinisphere, those stacks pieces that are not asymmetrical, but you can turn them into asymmetrical by tapping them down, going into your going into your turn. Everything will untap while the rest of your opponent's board state is tapped down. So I don't know. I do think it's interesting. I think people will try to jam it, and it's definitely one that I'm kind of looking forward to. Like if this ends up being one we kind of play on the channel for when we do the gameplay for Edge of Eternities. But yeah, it's kind of a cool legendary. That's all I have on that one. And then the last blue card I was kind of looking at that I was trying to put more thought into is this Consult the Star Charts.
Okay.
So it's a 2-drop instant, and it has a kicker cost of 2. So both of which are colorless and a blue. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. Put 1 of those cards into your hand. If this spell was kicked, put 2 of those cards into your hand instead. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, I mean, it's pretty much like how Malevolent Rumble is trying to do. It's just you get to look at the top X cards and you get to put 2, and instead of them going to the graveyard, they're going to go back into your library. I think that this card is actually really strong, but more tailored towards the Cradle decks right now. And both Rogthras and Dogthras can play this.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I was looking at this card too. I don't really have much to say about it, just because I definitely think that it gets better the more lands that you have on the field. So I definitely think that it will probably be one of those cards that would be like pretty decent in a casual setting, just because of all the land ramp. But I'm not 100% sure as far as like cEDH. I agree with you. It's gonna have to be those more like Cradle Abuse type decks that are gonna run it to like truly benefit from it. But I still think it's decent.
Yeah. What about you though? What in blue have you seen that seemed interesting or good?
The one card that I was talking about earlier, that the Scour for Scrap. I don't know if you saw that, but it's 3 in a blue instant. Choose one or both. Search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Or return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So I think that it's nice. Honestly, like, I don't know. It seems like a Tivit type card, I guess.
I think this is a Kennen card.
Kennen, another good example. So I mean, I don't think it's bad by any means. I think it's a really good card.
I mean, in that deck specifically, like, say if the Kennen player has already attempted to go for a win with the Basalt Monolith or something like that, okay, Basalt's in the graveyard. Now I'm just going to cast this during your end step, and then I'm going to get Basalt back, and I'm going to go on ahead and tutor out the Treasure Vault. And I'm going to play that as my land for the turn, and then cast the Basalt and try to present another win.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think there's a lot of flexibility. I think that the fact that you get to tutor at instant speed, nuts. It costs 4, but in Kennen that's 2. Looking at it kind of realistically, and like, okay, if it gets blown out, at least you're not using the mana on your turn. You're using it on other people's turns, especially if you're not trying to go for like a bunch of Kennen flips or just trying to be dependent on that. Like, you could just continue to try to set up a win going into your turn.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I definitely agree. Other than that, there was no other blue card, like nothing blue that I could see that really stood out to me. That was like the biggest thing. I just thought it was interesting.
So let's move on to black. So the first card I actually was looking at for out of the black spells is Arch Enemy's Charm. So for 3 black pips at instant speed, you choose 1. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Return 1 or 2 target creature and or planeswalker cards from your graveyard to your hand, or put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. It gains lifelink until end of the turn. Kind of just either another kill spell, or if you've kind of like entombed or buried alive or anything like that, being able to like get some of that stuff back whenever you need to. I mean, you might be able to get someone if, like, say you cast the Dark Ritual early on, and then like you're just going for a kill spell, but you're exiling whatever the threat is. I don't know. The flexibility is what kind of drew me into it. 3 black pips kind of feels like a lot whenever, you know, typically you're going to want to use the Dark Writ for Necropotence, or even like the really early on, like turn 1 opposition agent. But I still think it's kind of a neat card to see, like, especially since we've gotten the Archdruid's Charm here recently, so it kind of gives us some insight. It looks like they're going to be printing like more of a cycle of these charms again, and kind of bringing that back into Magic as a whole. So I do think that is kind of neat. What are your thoughts on that card?
I think it's probably like a Crick, like probably that card. But other than that, man, I don't know. Like, the black pips are what's really hard. I mean,
not in that deck.
No, in that deck it's easy peasy. But yeah, in most other decks, I feel like it's going to be kind of difficult. So I mean, I guess I could see it seeing a little bit of play, but I think that's where that deck, or that's where it would be really, really good. Because not only can you exile a creature, but also being able to hit planeswalkers, that's pretty relevant. And then, I mean, obviously we understand what it, like, if it's got buried alive shenanigans and stuff going on, like filling up its graveyard, and then you get to bring back up to 2 target creatures from their graveyard, so they could bring back like a Gary, they could bring back the Sheldred, things like that. So I mean, I definitely think I think it's totally fine. I think that it'll probably see playing that. Other than that, there might be a couple decks that end up playing it, but black pip, it's just really hard. I feel like if you're willing to make that cost, you're probably playing like Necropotence.
Yeah, the only other card that I kind of looked at, now, I mean, there's a lot of like legendary creature, like there's some good artifacts and enchantments and creatures in this, but as far, again, for us specifically, I was just trying to focus on cEDH. I don't know if the 0-point ballad is going to be anything, but for X and a black, it's a sorcery. Destroy all creatures with toughness X or less. You lose X life. If X is 6 or more, return a creature card, put into a graveyard this way to the battlefield under your control. So You can dump into it to wipe the board if you need to. If you need to be more specific on like what toughness you're trying to remove, you can. You can utilize it as a reanimation type piece. So I mean that's neat. We're just getting another black board wipe here that can be cheap. You know, for 2 mana, if you had to just clear the board of all the dorks and an Orcish Bowmaster.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not too bad, and you're only paying 1 life. It's not like how Toxic Deluge is, where you have to pay the 3 and then pay life as an additional cost. So that way, if this does get countered, you're not actually losing the life compared to what Toxic does. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of neat with that one, but I didn't really have anything else that stood out to me too much within black. What about you?
Man, I'm not gonna lie. There was nothing that I was just looking at going, that's really good. It was a bunch of stuff that, like, at first I would look at it and say, maybe that's something, and then I would come to the conclusion of like, nah, that's probably not.
So you ready to move on to red?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's go on to the red cards. There are a lot of really good cards in red, actually, but again, I'm kind of more so focused on the specifics for our format. And so the first one I actually kind of looked at, let me double check. I was looking at this Devastating Onslaught.
Mm-hmm.
So it's double X in a red, but it's a sorcery. Create X tokens that are copies of target artifact or creature you control. Those tokens gain haste until end of turn. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. You probably know what card or what commander I'm thinking of when I say this. I hope you do, at least. Making copies. We're in red.
Oh, you're talking about like Krark? Wait, what were you saying? Create X tokens that are copies of your like Urbrass deck?
No. Chunky.
Oh, Chunky.
Yeah.
Whenever you say stuff like that, I was like super confused.
No.
I was like, is it like a fringe thing?
No. I think this could be a chunky card. I think like even if you just make like if you have to pay 2 into like for each of the X and you're doing 5 mana for it, that's 2 copies of Chunky that are coming down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I don't know what world you actually have to like, you know, create multiple copies of Dualcaster Mage all at the same time, but I guess you could potentially, but yeah.
I mean, technically, if you pump 3 mana into this, can't you have the Dualcaster copy it and still get there with the combo? Because it'll copy it on it copies the current mana value, correct?
No, you make X copies of whatever.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like if you went to put this on like a Tolly, for instance. Like,
oh yeah.
So
no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, if you pump 3 into it, yeah.
And then you could flash in
the Dualcaster and make a copy of it and just go off from there. Yeah.
Yeah, because it does give them haste, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, tokens get hit. Yeah.
Yep. So I mean, we're seeing this kind of pop up. Molten Duplication last year, the fact that you can actually target an artifact with it instead of a creature, I think became relevant, and that's why it started seeing a lot of play in a lot of these decks. This is just kind of the same thing here, where you have a little bit more flexibility on what you can target between it being a creature and an artifact, and then you can continue to utilize it as a combo piece with Dualcaster, or if you want to make multiple chunkies and get the ETB and start stealing more things off your opponents before you swing, like that's okay too. So that's why I kind of like this card. Another card that I was looking at for this is this Weapons Manufacturing. So it's 2-drop enchantment. So for colorless and red, whenever a non-token artifact you control enters, create a colorless artifact token named Munitions. With this token leaves the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target. I'm sure that there's going to be something that can find a way to kind of break this card. I don't know what specifically, because the first thing that kind of comes to mind for me is like being able to pair it with like Hullbreaker or Valley Floodcaller with the Retraction Helix, where like you can just kind of continue to sit there and cast the spells, and then you make near infinite token copies of this Munitions. Now you just have to find a way of getting rid of them. That's the only drawback I kind of see, is like, okay, how do we get rid of this stuff now in order for it to trigger, and then you could deal all the damage. It doesn't say that it has to go, like be sacrificed or go to the graveyard or anything like that. It just says leaves the battlefield. So maybe even this could be something like, I could see this being a VV card, where if the VV pilots are going into the Valley Flood Caller or the Hullbreaker stuff, and then they make like infinite of these, but at that point you're probably already dealing all that damage anyway. And then if you had to just like, we've seen some lists recently running like the filter out and things like that. Displacement wave, it bounces all these munition tokens to your hand technically, and they leave the battlefield, so that way you just shoot the table for whatever you need to. But if you're playing VV, you should already be there anyway. So I don't know, I do think it's kind of a cool card and gives us a new like token type to play around with. So I guess we're gonna see what happens with that one.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I was literally thinking to myself if there was a way that you could abuse this with like Dargo, because you can sack the tokens to Dargo on cast. But you then need a way to like make more non-token artifacts. I mean, it could be like a neat little like Joyra Cheerios card, because you're putting in all the Cheerios, and so it's making a bunch of those. You're just kind of storing it up, but I don't know how you sack them at that point. That's where the tricky part gets to. It just has to leave the battlefield. So even if they get bounced to hand, like if somebody forgets about them and they overload a Psych Rift,
yeah, you do a bunch of shit in response to it. Overloaded Psych Rift with these.
Well, they bounce all your stuff, and so every one of them leaves the battlefield all at once, and you're like, yeah, you're dead, bud.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's not terrible. I don't know. I was just trying to think if there was a way, because like I said, the Dargo payoff would be kind of neat. I just don't know what artifacts. I feel like you would need some kind of weird like Warren Soul Trader type line to
probably,
but you would need the permanent coming back to be artifacts. I don't know, because it.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It definitely is. I think that someone out there will find it and break it. And I don't think we're smart enough at the moment to figure what that one out. I was just looking over this one too. Memorial Vault. For 3 colorless and a red, it's an artifact. You can tap it and sacrifice another artifact. Exile the top X cards of your library, where X is 1 plus the mana value of the sacrificed artifact. You may play those cards this turn. Like, I kind of view that one as like that could be a situation where if the One Ring is about to kill you,
yeah, that's not bad.
And you can, you just exile. Maybe if you had to draw cards and then you exile the One Ring, and then you're able to look like exile your top 5 cards, and you can cast them that turn. So like depending on how big your One Ring is, you can potentially like look at your next like 10 cards off of the draw you get from that, plus the ones you exile. I don't know. I think there could be some interesting things with it.
Yeah,
it's not a birthing pod, but it is. It kind of reminds me of birthing pod in a way.
To be fair, this is gonna sound very silly, but if for some reason, I mean, I know this is a big stretch, so hear me out.
Okay.
Technically, if you can make a big old walking ballista, you can sack it to exile the rest of your deck and play all those cards, because it is an artifact.
Hold on, what? Say that again?
Sack another artifact, exile the top X cards of your library, where X is 1 plus the mana value of the sacrificed artifact. So if you made a really, really big walking ballista, and let's say like you kill 2 players, but like 1 player's protected under the One Ring, you could just sack this and like see the rest of the cards in your deck.
Yeah,
if you wanted to.
If you wanted to, I think is the.
Like I said, it's a stretch.
It's a stretch.
Sometimes you got to stretch to make these cards good.
Sometimes.
I do think the one other card that was standing out was the Ruinous Rampage. Have you seen that one? It's 1 red. Choose 1. It can deal 3 damage to each opponent, so it's kind of like a lightning bolt, but for everybody. Or exile all artifacts with mana value 3 or less.
Ooh.
Yep.
That part's pretty good.
Yep. So I thought that was pretty relevant too.
Is it instant speed? Sorcery speed?
Sorcery speed.
Okay. All right, moving on to green. So I think the very first one that kind of was on the radar for a lot of us was this Frenzied Baloth. I think that this card is good really no matter what format you play in. But for 2 green, you have this 3/2 beast, and this spell can't be countered. It has trample and haste. Creature spells you control can't be countered. Combat damage can't be prevented. So for 2 green, another spell in green that makes it to where your creatures can't be countered, that's not bad. That's pretty good. I think that one's going to be a card that sees play in a lot of different formats. Maybe more so in like standard, but you know, we finally got Leo playing Selvala on the channel here recently, so like being able to, you know, see this card kind of get slotted in where like his deck is more creature combo anyway, so like makes it to where now none of his stuff that he's going to be playing is going to be countered. Like you know, especially for example, like he has Allosaurus in the deck, but that doesn't help whenever like he's trying to resolve the Phyrexian Dreadnought. This at least makes it to where Phyrexian Dreadnought can be countered. You know, he won't see the mental misstep for that. So I don't know. I think that's just going to be a really good card overall coming out of this set. I think that was the main green one from this set. I know that I've been, ever since you did the video with Eric, I've been kind of looking at his Cocaine Bear list, and I know he's already taken some inspiration out of the new set. I know that 2 of the cards, as far as the core set that he's on for Lumra now, or at least he's planning on trying out, this Icetail Explorer. So for 2 colorless, 2 green, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. You may play lands from your graveyard, and then it has a landfall trigger whenever a land you control enters mill a card, and it is a 2/4. So being able to fill up the graveyard, being able to play additional lands for the turn, be able to get some of your lands back from the graveyard, and be able to continue triggering things to mill. That seems nice. He's also on this Famished Worldsire, or at least he's going to try it out, it seems. So for 5 colorless and 3 green pips, it's a 0/0 Leviathan with Ward 3 and Devour Land 3. So as this creature enters, you may sacrifice any number of lands. It enters with 3 times that many +1/+1 counters on it. And then when this creature enters, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is this creature's power. Put any number of land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So yeah, definitely like a card you would want to see like in Lumra or the Wandering Minstrel or anything like that, trying to abuse those kind of play patterns. So yeah, those are some cool includes. Other than that, like there's a lot of like really cool creatures, but nothing else that truly like stood out to me from the core set with green.
How do you feel about this? This is one card that I saw where they had mentioned it. Like Critical had actually made a tweet about it. The Gene Pollinator. So it's
as I'm looking for it, tell me what it does.
It's 1 green, artifact, creature, robot, insect, and it just says tap an untapped permanent you control, add 1 mana of any color. It is a 1/2. So it's basically a mana dork, but you have to have another permanent to make the mana. But it does make mana of any color, and it's a 1/2, so it doesn't just immediately die to a Bowmaster.
I mean, I think the closest card to it is Springleaf Drum.
Yeah.
I think just the downside is you can't tap it right away because it doesn't have haste because it's still a creature.
Correct.
But that's kind of what it reminds me of is a Springleaf Drum. And I mean, it sees quite a bit of play in all the Rogue Rack decks. So I mean, we can't argue against it. I mean, hell, this might be a flubs card.
What is the? I don't know why I'm drawing a total blank. What is the one that you comes down for 0, but you have to equip it for 1 to Rogue Rack?
Paradise Mantle.
It's kind of what that's kind of what I think of too.
Just because of the speed.
Yeah, because like you're probably dropping it and equiping it, but then not using like not gonna tap it immediately. So I mean, it doesn't hurt.
You know what card it's really good paired with? Paradise Mantle. Or not Paradise Mantle, I fucked that one up. Springleaf Drum. Now, I'm actually, the next stuff that I'm going to be looking at the multicolored section of this. Kind of was having a little bit of hard time, and again, we're looking at the core set stuff. I know a lot of people have been like hyped on this, is it Ragost? Deft Gastronaut?
Oh, yeah.
The Boros Commander, just because it's a big lobster chef.
Yeah.
But so we'll just kind of explain him real quick. So Ragost, Deft Gastronaut. For a red and a white, you have a 2/2 legendary creature, Lobster Citizen. Artifacts you control are foods in addition to their other types, and have pay to tap, sacrifice this artifact, gain 3 life. It has an activated ability of 1, tap him, sacrifice a food. He deals 3 damage to each opponent. And at the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, you can untap him.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are pretty hype on him. I've been trying to find some things on him. I do know that there is a combo with him in the command zone that you use the Nuka-Cola machine. And I think some ways of making other like token copies of like treasures and stuff. So that way you start making treasures, and I think you can find ways of like, because they're foods, it pairs with another thing. Let me see if I can find that one specifically, so that way I'm not just guessing. I can actually tell you what the combo itself is.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of different ones, it looks like. So you can it utilizes the Nuka-Cola machine. So if that's 3 colorless, 1, tap the Nuka-Cola machine, create a food token. That's not really the important part with that one. It's whenever you sacrifice a food, create a tap treasure token. And then you can pair it with the Crack Clan Ironworks, where you could sacrifice an artifact, add 2 colorless to your mana pool. If you have things like the Academy Manufacturer out, or Grinding Station and things like that, you continue to make tokens, I believe. And you can just, rather than having to pay to crack it as a food, you just sacrifice them as a treasure. Or like, say you have Grinding Station out, you can sacrifice the new treasure that entered, but because it is also a food, the Nuka-Cola machine will recognize that, and then will give you another treasure token. You untap the Grinding Station, you sack it again, and you can present that loop where you can mill out the table. That's one of them. So I mean, that is kind of cool to see that. Me personally, I do kind of like this other card as a potential Sisay card. I don't think it's necessarily the best thing, but this it's the Izzet version of Manon. It's Manon Uthros Exile, and it's still a legendary creature. It's a 1/3 for 3 in Izzet colors. It has flying, and whenever an artifact you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So if that's out, you have Sisay, you drop an artifact, it automatically makes Sisay at 5, I believe. Like, even if you don't have any other legendaries out, it being an Izzet will make Sisay the 4/4. You drop the artifact, put the +1/+1 counter on Sisay, you're golden. I actually kind of found another card. Okay. Hear me out on this one. I don't feel like this is as much of a stretch. Genoform Imago. So for a green and a blue, so we're in Simic, we have an insect druid with flying, and it's a 1/3. And it has a landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, target creature has base power and toughness 3/3 until end of the turn. If you control 6 or more lands, that creature has base power and toughness 6/6 until end of the turn. You just pair this with a Borrow Breeze color line. So then you'll phase out everyone's creatures. If you have a bunch of creatures on the board already, and if your land count is high enough, you just make all your creatures that are on the battlefield 6/6s and swing. Huh? What do you think? And it goes in Rogthras and Dogthras.
Boo. No. I mean, I'm sure. Like, I've been stretching, so we can stretch. It's okay. Yep, I agree.
He just agrees with it.
It is cEDH.
Might be a little bit of a stretch, but I don't think that's bad. At least it's like a true definitive, like, hey, I'm just going to swing out with this if you don't have finale.
Right. I mean, I definitely get it. I get it. Like I said, I get it.
He's like, I get it. It's still not good.
I know. I can get it. Tezzeret, Cruel Captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, you knew. So it's a 3 colorless, 3 generic, not 3 colors, 3 generic. That is a massive difference. 3 colors, so it'd be unplayable. 3 generic, legendary planeswalker, Tezzeret. Whenever an artifact you control enters, put a loyalty counter on Tezzeret. For 0, you can untap target artifact creature. If it's an artifact creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. -3, you can search your library for an artifact card with mana value 1 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And for the -7, it's the ultimate. You get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put 3 +1/+1 counters on target artifact you control. If it is not a creature, it becomes a 0/0 robot artifact creature. And it comes in with 4 loyalty already. So you can activate the first 2 abilities.
That seems pretty good.
Absolutely.
I mean, even if you're not necessarily like the Turbo Cradle decks, like you just Mana Vault, Tezzeret, and then I don't know, go get the Soul Ring, or what other 1-drops are we kind of looking at?
Well, I mean, it can go get Esper Sentinel. It can go get, like you said, Mana Vault.
Can I get the Esper Sentinel?
Yeah, it just has 1 or less. It's not the specific pip.
It's not like how Urza Saga is.
No,
okay.
no. 1 or less.
Okay, that makes it a little bit better.
Urza Saga specifically says like 1 colorless or 0.
Yeah.
It can go find a Walking Ballista if you're playing like the Walking Ballista in a deck. It can go get a Phyrexian Dreadnought if you're playing a Savala deck.
Yeah.
Which is correct. Also, just being able to untap target artifact or creature. I mean,
I think there's a couple relevant things within this. One, he's cheap to get out. So it's easy to resolve him pretty early on in the game. The fact that he has the static ability where you continue to add loyalty counters whenever a artifact you control enters, huge.
Oh shit!
What?
I just realized. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Say what you're gonna say, and then I'll say what I was gonna say.
Well, I feel like the -3 is very relevant at times. Whether that's like if you need to get a Soul Ring, a Mana Vault, the Vexing Bauble, the Candelabra Taunos. Like, there's a lot of flexibility in what you can get there. You mentioned the Walking Ballista. You can get your 0-drops off of this. If you're running this in the deck that has a Displacer Kitten, and then that's probably what you're thinking. So I feel like this is definitely like a Tivit card where like you can run this in there and then be able to like get a 0-drop blink. You know, if you need to get another Tivit, and like then it's whenever artifacts enter, so you're going to add more loyalty counters whenever all the 5 like clues or token or treasures or clue combination enters.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a lot of cool things that this thing can do.
Yeah. This goes and gets every mana positive rock out of your deck pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
Because you get a 0-drop, you cast it, blink it, go get another one, cast it, blink it, go get another one, cast it, blink it, and just get all of them, and then you're immediately on Tivit at that point. You're right there.
Yep.
Because you could finish even with like a Mana Vault. You've got the Mana Vault Soul Ring, you've got all your 0-drop rocks, cast your Tivit. You're rocking, bro.
Oh yeah,
that's really good.
It's solid. Like it's pretty good. So I think people are gonna like this Thrumming Hive pool. 6 colorless, affinity for slivers. Slivers you control have double strike and haste at the beginning of your upkeep. Create 2 1/1 colorless sliver creature tokens. People just like it because it's slivers. That doesn't mean that it's gonna be cEDH viable by any means. Now, maybe where, again, we've used it enough already, this could see play a Rogthras. It's high CMC. We're stretching again. But it's high CMC, and it gives you more bodies. So that way you're getting more value off of your Cradle and your Growing Rites of Iklamok and things like that. Maybe. Okay, so I may have found something else I looked over.
It's okay.
This Anti-Casual Vestige. It's a 6-drop, 7/5 Eldrazi. And it says, when this creature leaves the battlefield, draw a card. Then you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. It's interesting. It's cool. It has a warp 4.
It's warp.
It has warp 4. So, I mean, for 4, you can... you could just put a tapped One Ring down if you have 4 lands.
Hell yeah.
So, cool. Moving on to the more important lands, okay? Let's go on. There's only really a few that stand out to me out of this cycle of lands. So let's talk about the green one first. So we have Vendo, Waking Haven. It is a land planet that this land enters tapped, and you can add green, and then has station. So this is another new mechanic from the set. We didn't really talk about a whole lot of the spacecrafts too much out of this so far, but the planets have station as well. Station is this ability: tap another creature you control. Put charge counters equal to its power on this planet or station or spacecraft. Station only as a sorcery. And whenever you have 12 plus charge counters on Vendo, Waking Haven, you can pay a green, tap it, add green for each creature you control. So it is another Gaia's Cradle effect that we have. The differences are it comes into play tapped. You can actually tap it for a green, and you actually have to pay a green into the activation of it. So a lot of stipulations to it, but some of these decks, they're making a lot of creatures, but they're not really caring about combat damage. So being able to station these might not be too unachievable. So that's the first one I have on those. Do you have any thoughts on that card specifically?
I think it's really bad.
Think it's really bad?
I think it'll be fine in like a casual table. I think it's really bad in cEDH.
I don't know. I think that if these Dog Thras decks are trying to find as many effects like this as they can, this set just gave it another one. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't think it's the better one out of any of them. I don't think that this one, like, people look at this card and go, oh yeah, I'm going to replace the Growing Rites of Iclamont with it. No. But the fact that you can play it and then start stationing it right away, like it doesn't have to be untapped for that to happen. So you can station it, and then, like, say if you're in Dog Thras and you're potting things, and like you at sorcery speed, you just tap down whatever you need to put counters and then pod that creature out. You continue doing that loop. I don't know. You can make more mana that way potentially, to be able to eventually make sure you're continuing paying for whatever pod, or I don't know, maybe even Derevi could make use of that somehow. Like, you can actually, in between the steps, if you had to, like, say you don't have access to Cradle, but you had access to this, like, you could probably find a way to get there with it. But, I mean, it's not going to replace any of those effects for sure. But I think people will try to jam it. That's where I'm at. I'm going to move on. I don't think the red one is worth mentioning.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that this might actually be halfway decent.
Really?
I know that this, not because of the ability at the bottom at all, but just the ability to tap down your creatures for Magda.
What?
Tap another creature you control, put charge counters on it, but if you tap them down, you get treasures off Magda.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you're not even for the station ability, you're just tapping.
And you're playing it as a land, so that way you have something to tap down
your creatures with. If you don't have like a
here's the drawback to that.
Yeah.
It is a sorcery speed thing.
Correct.
So if you do that and then someone goes to kill the Magda, you cannot tap the Magda down in response. So I agree with you. Like, I think being able to make the multiple treasures, I think, is probably good, but the fact that you have to do it one at a time.
I agree, but I'm just saying the ability to early on, if you, worst case scenario, like, yeah, and I'm sure the Magda people will be like, we don't fucking want this card. Probably. And that's okay. We've been stretching all day. I'm feeling very loose with how much stretching we've been doing. So I think that...
And you are the stretch master.
I am. That's what I do for a living. Yeah, I think that... I definitely think that I could see people being like, well, this is just a way to tap down our little, dorks.
Yeah,
dorks.
Dorks. They're dorks in Magda.
Yeah, they are. People don't want to call them.
I don't know. I didn't think of it that way. I could see where you're going with it.
That's the only deck that I could think of that it would go in. Now.
I do think it's kind of cool. The art on this, it looks like it's being blown up by the Death Star. So, do you think the white one is good enough?
Hell no.
Okay, I didn't think so. Create a token copy of target artifact or enchantment you control, except it's legendary, activate only as a sorcery.
Nah.
No, pass. I think there's some people in the CISA Discord talking about the black one. I'll be honest, but I don't see it. It's the Sur Secundi Void Altar. Again, this is for the black planet, same station, 12+, but you pay 2 into it, tap it, pay 2 life, sacrifice a creature. There's a lot of text in just the activation. Draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Activate only as a sorcery. So, like, if you make a big beefy creature that you just swing with, and then, like, I don't know, I don't even think Crick would want to play this. I could be wrong. Like, you could probably get there with it, but, like, again, like, if you're that tight on drawing cards, I don't think that you're going to be tapping down your creatures to try and beef this up and then sacrifice something to. I don't know. I just don't see it.
Yeah, tap lands hurt, man. I could see them potentially being played in casual, but
yeah. Now this next one, I kind of like this next one.
I think it's trash too.
Really?
Yeah.
You wanted the card unbanned.
Yeah, but this is like, you know how like people say it's like, I want this, and it's like, oh, we have that at home. This isn't even that at home. This is like.
So for those of you, before we get too deep into this conversation, Uthros Titanic God Core. It is the blue planet, same activation for the station and whatnot, but you pay a blue into it, tap it, add blue for each artifact you control. So this is the Tolarian Academy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think people will try to jam it. It's blue. People are running artifacts. Like, might as well make more use out of it.
They can absolutely try.
People are going to try, I think, on this one. People are going to look and go, oh, blue, oh, artifacts. And then they're going to try to jam it. We'll see what happens.
I think it's bad.
I think out of all of them, I think the green and the blue ones are the best.
For sure.
Ones.
Well, I don't even know. Yeah, actually, I don't even know if I agree with that. I think that...
you just said for sure.
Yeah, I think that the red one might actually like be the only relevant one that I can think of.
Only because of
Magda. That's it.
Only
That's
for
it.
Magda.
I don't think of Endo. I don't think that it's tapped. It requires a lot of setup, and then you got to pay the green to like go ahead and do it. So like, it's one of those things where like it's basically a tapped forest until it's online. Gaia's Cradle is Gaia's Cradle the turn it comes down. Like it's...
Yeah, but
you know, and like even Growing Rights of Itlamok, some people didn't even think that card would be good. They were like, I don't know if it'll be good. But then it went in, and it turned out it was actually pretty good. But people were questionable on that. This is like Growing Rights if it was like at the Goodwill maybe or something. I don't know, and like not even in a mean way, but like this card's fucking sucks.
Hey man,
if people want to try it and like I'm proven wrong, I'm not smart when it comes to this game, so it's fine. I don't care. But I think and I think the Uthros are terrible, and I think the white and the black ones are even worse.
See, here's the thing. I think what makes them significantly worse compared to like the Gaia's Cradle or the Sarah Sanctum or like Tolarian Academy, things like that. The reason why they are so strong, you are correct. They come down and they immediately can make an impact. You know, Gaia's Cradle, yeah, if you have no creatures on board, it is a dead card. Same thing with the other ones, you know, from the OG of that. At least with Growing Rights, once it flips, even if the creatures are removed, it can still produce a green on its own. I feel like that this cycle of lands in particular, these are cards that I feel like you have to really build around in order to make them effective. And whenever you start doing that, you kind of go against what the deck is trying to do. Now, I do think that for the green one in particular, these Thrassia, these Turbo Cradle decks, I think they will want to pick that up. And I think that like some of their creatures, because they're not really even focusing on combat damage, they make enough little creatures that even if they go to try to station it and people have things they want to do in response, those decks make enough mana that they can respond to it immediately and then continue to do stuff. I think that this is just an extra effect for those decks, and that's why I think it will probably see play still in them, because those are the decks you don't have to build around for those effects. If you go outside of those decks, then you are starting to have to build around those effects.
Well, see, my thing is, like, I feel like out of all of them, even, like I said, the red one is the one that I could see potentially seeing play, and the Magda pilots may even be like, we don't want this card, don't associate us with that. But, like, let's even say the Evando, like, I think that one's way more feasible than the blue one, like the Uthros, because at least this is making mana based off of the number of creatures you have, and so in order to make it live, you're already going to be having creatures on board, so, like, it kind of just helps support itself, if that makes sense. Uthros, you have to have creatures on board to put the counters on, and you got to have artifacts in play to make it relevant also. I think that card sucks. Nothing against, like, I'm sure that somebody
I think it'll be really good in Standard. So a lot of the cards that we didn't mention that are turning artifacts into creatures, like just as part of the effects of whatever it does, like even the Tezzeret being able to turn artifacts into creatures, like there's going to be some synergies there with it. I don't know. So I don't know. That kind of concludes things though for the core set. Now I'm kind of scrolling down a little bit farther, and I'm looking at some of the cards that are in the just the precons. I know there was one that I think you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, like on our Discord, this Insight Engine. It is for it's a 3-drop artifact, so 2 colorless and a blue. You can pay 2 into it, tap it, put a charge counter on this artifact, then draw a card for each charge counter on it.
Yeah, this also feels like One Ring at Home.
Yeah,
2 and a blue, and then you got to pay 2 and tap to activate it to the charge counter. So like, it literally just feels like another One Ring, but for like an additional like blue pip, basically.
It's good if you're in like Cradle decks or not Cradle decks, Seaborn decks.
Yeah.
Or if you're like, we've seen some decks here recently popping up with the Unstoppable Plan as an enchantment in the 99, being able to untap this and being able to do that. You can do it with the, what is it, Unwinding Clock?
Yeah,
I believe
so, yeah.
Upkeep, untap all your artifacts. So, I mean, there are some things that see play at times, especially the Seaborn Muse, that can really take advantage of this and actually probably accrue you more value in the long run than the One Ring does, because you're not hurting yourself the whole time. But I thought that was worth mentioning. There's another one that I know that Eric is also on, and it's this Exploration Broodship, or at least he's going to try it out. It is a spacecraft. It's 1 green, has station with 2 different station abilities. Whenever it gets to 3+, you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and then when you get to 8+, it has flying, and once during your turn, you may cast a permanent spell from your graveyard by sacrificing a land in addition to paying its other costs. I actually think that this card's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that card's really strong. That will be an auto-include in flubs, for sure. So I think that one's a pretty good one. But other than that, I'm not seeing too much out of what they gave us from these pre-con, like new cards from the pre-cons. Was there anything that caught your eye?
Really good reprints for as far as lands and stuff.
Oh yeah, the Mana Confluence, the Gemstone Caverns, the Ancient Tombs, Mutavault. Like, there's a lot of really good reprints in this set with some really cool arts. And I'm gonna make the same point with this that I did in the last set review that we did for Final Fantasy. I think it's a good thing that we are seeing a lot of not just good reprints of things. We're seeing a lot of cEDH reprints.
I agree
on things. I think that's a really good thing for the format. Not just from a cost standpoint, but from the fact that it's like, hey, they're actually paying attention to us. Like, they know that some of these arts for Ancient Tomb and Gemstone Caverns, like, we're probably going to buy it just because we are greedy little goblins sometimes, and we like our shiny things and our new arts and whatnot. So I think that that's cool. I just the recognition that they're providing to the format. It seems like they are trying to actually take it seriously and get people to play cEDH in a way, or just get into Commander in general. So yeah, I think that's cool. Aside from that, I don't have anything else for this set. Do you?
Nothing I can think of, man. I do think that there's a lot of really neat stuff in here. I am just curious to see how. I don't know. I mean, anytime a set comes out, obviously we're just 2 guys, so we like to go and like look at the sets and say, hey, like, this is cool or that's cool, and this, like, we'll just kind of cover stuff. But at the end of the day, like, cEDH is almost like this crazy hive mind. Like, every single one of these commanders has a Discord with people in there constantly brewing stuff, constantly talking about things, constantly saying stuff, trying to better the deck, better the format, make these changes. So, like, us just on surface value, we may look at some of these cards and we may be shitting on these cards. We may say, this looks terrible, that looks terrible, I don't think that's playable. We may look at another card and go, that's so good, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And then the hive mind will pick the card up, it'll test it, like, super thoroughly, and then it'll spit it back out, and it'll say, this card's fantastic, or this card is dog shit. And then we will learn from that. So, like, on surface value, we just give our opinion on stuff. But at the end of the day, I definitely think that there's a lot of decent stuff on surface value from the set. I'm curious to see what the hive mind does with it.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking to the hive mind, just as I said earlier on in the video, we have our own Discord. So if you want to become part of our own collective hive mind to be able to discuss things with us and the people we are trying to get in there, and hopefully have some good things happening soon on the channel with those individuals, come join us and let us know about what your thoughts on Edge of Eternities is, not just in the comments below, but let us know in there too. So that way, if you want to just personally tell us that we were wrong on some of these cards, you can. But you know, other than that, I don't have anything else for this set. This was a long one. We were stretching on some of these. But all in all, I am still really looking forward to this set coming out, and I think it's going to be a good set for Magic as a whole. So with all of that being said, if you don't have anything, I don't have anything else. As always, you know, let us know what you think about what we're doing. Let us know if you have any suggestions on videos that you want to see. Drop that down below as well. But, you know, if you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, and as always,
go play some cEDH.